And welcome everyone to our second training director roundtable. This one will be a little bit different than last time. If you weren't able to make it last time, that recording is on our Naturalist News page. But that was a breakdown of the survey results from our training director survey last year, basically a repeat of the session that we hosted at the annual meeting. So if you want to go back and look at those, I didn't think to put a QR code to it in this slide deck, so it's not there. But it is on our Naturalist News page. I think it's on page 2. So if you scroll back to page 2, you can find it there. But today is going to be a little bit different because it is going to be a little more discussion based. We pulled some questions from the end of that survey when we asked you 4 additional questions, and we'll kind of go over them in a roundtable format. But before we get started on that, we do have a little bit of housekeeping first. So we're just going to go through that really quick. This meeting will last about an hour. The recording will be uploaded again to that Naturalist News page later this week. That QR code will take you to the Naturalist News page. Again, if you want to go and look at the last roundtable that we had. Our final roundtable for 2025 will be held at the annual meeting. The time and date is still TBA because we're still working on that final schedule for the annual meeting. But that meeting will also be recorded and added to that Naturalist News page. So if you or someone you know who wants to be there can't make it in person, they can watch the recording after the fact or during it. We also have a volunteer note taker for today. So thank you, Mary Beth, for taking notes for today. And that's the first part of our housekeeping. The second part of the housekeeping is we still have that form on our website. So anyone who has a fall training class that is about to get started, don't forget to fill out that survey on our website. You can either find it through that button on our homepage or that QR code will take you right to it. And again, this is just a way to have kind of a one-stop shop for anyone who might end up on the state website first when they're looking to join the program, and then that'll direct them to your chapter for your chapter's training. Right now, we see that we have 9 chapters that have training starting in August and later, so that's very exciting. If you don't see your name on that list and you have a fall training that's about to kick off and you want to add it to the website, even just for documentation purposes, like let's say your submission timeline, like the application deadline has passed, maybe just so someone knows that, okay, it's passed for now, but I can still get in contact with that chapter to maybe get on a list for next year. Even that information is beneficial for people who are looking to join the program. So go ahead and add it if you don't see your name on that list. Also, we have some TMN Tuesday commonly asked questions that we thought were pertinent for you as training directors. Are the 2025 TMN Tuesdays available for AT hours for trainees? And the answer is yes. They can be applied for that initial training AT requirement. How long after I watch a TMN Tuesday video can I log my AT hours? Don't forget you can log stuff right away. If you don't want it to be sitting on your to-do list forever, you can tell anyone, hey, you can do it that same, like after you finished it, the next day, whenever you want to do it. But they do still follow that 45-day rule for logging AT hours. And so just keep that in mind for anyone who is wanting to log TMN Tuesday for AT. And again, since these are recorded, it can be 45 days after they have watched the recording, but it does need to be in that same calendar year. So it need to be logged within 2025 for these 2025 TMN Tuesdays. Are the TMN Tuesdays recorded? Yes, y'all also might have seen that we did a post this morning about a reminder that we do have all those recordings live on our website. You can go to that TMN Tuesday page and it has that YouTube video embedded into the page. You can also just go straight to our YouTube and there is a whole playlist full of all of our past TMN Tuesdays and watch them right from there. Do I need to register for the TMN Tuesdays each month? Technically, yes, but you can register all in one go. You don't need to go month by month, and that link is at the top of that TMN Tuesday webpage. You will notice that October is not on there yet, and that's because, again, time and date is still TBD. But once it's on there, we'll send that email reminder to register, and then you can go to that same link and just click the October one, and then you can register that way. And then are previous year's TMN Tuesdays available for 2025 AT hours? The answer is no. Again, it's only the calendar year that TMN Tuesday counts. So all of the 2025 TMN Tuesdays count for 2025, but once we hit 2026, they are no longer applicable. So that's just another thing to remind any of your trainees or other members about. But you can still go back and watch all of those past ones if you just want to get the information, obviously, because we have some really great ones in that backlog. But just a reminder, they wouldn't count for AT. And then some annual meeting commonly asked questions, again pertaining to the trainees, just some that you might be getting recently. Can a trainee attend the annual meeting? And the answer is yes. Even if a trainee's friend wants to attend the annual meeting and they're not going through your program, they can, because it is open to the public. And can a trainee earn AT or service hours at the annual meeting? Also, yes, those hours can also be applied to the hours they need for that initial certification. So that is another thing to let them know about while they might be considering joining us for the annual meeting. Will the annual meeting be recorded? No, that is an in-person event only, with the caveat of that TMN Tuesday live at the annual meeting that we are going to be doing. So that one will be recorded, but again, time and date to be announced. What's on the agenda at the annual meeting? Maybe you're getting some questions like, what am I gonna learn? What are we gonna do? That schedule will be releasing soon. Sorry, I got a little tongue twister there. That schedule will release soon. Hopefully we're shooting for the beginning of July, so keep your eyes out on our socials, our email listserv, and also that web page that will have all of the updates for anything annual meeting on it. Again, that QR code will take you right there. And then you're probably getting questions about how they can register for the annual meeting and how much it is. Again, that information will also be releasing soon, but it's just not out yet. So keep an eye on socials, emails, all the things to get those updates as they come. So now that's all of our housekeeping that we have. We're going to jump in to some of the questions again at the end of that big long survey. That again, thank you for filling that out because I know that was very long and daunting. But that big long survey that we had last year, we asked you at the end if you had any additional questions that you didn't feel like the survey covered. And so these questions are coming from your responses at the end of that survey. We're going to allow approximately 10 minutes per question. If that's, if we feel like we've talked all we need to talk to about a question, we'll go ahead and move on. Or if we feel like a question needs a little bit more time to be addressed thoroughly, then we can linger on it a little bit more. But we're going to shoot for about 10 minutes per question so we can get through the list that we have up here. So the first question that we pulled from those at the end of the survey was, how do you thank your instructors? And of course, we have a note at the bottom that it's not common practice for chapters to pay speakers to come, particularly if it's someone from one of the sponsoring agencies, because they cannot accept payments. But it is common practice for people to either give a little gift of appreciation or a thank you note. And of course, there are individuals from outside organizations who may want or request a payment for speaking. So kind of how do you navigate those and how do you thank instructors? Feel free to unmute and gab all you want.
In Goodwater, we just started this year creating photo tiles from Shutterfly. They're on aluminum and we make a collage with our chapter logo on it, and the instructors have really loved them. They're a photo tile that they can mount in their office or put on a stand. So those have been a big hit this year.
So just your chapter mark, or is it some like a scenic photo behind it as well, or how do you frame it?
I'll grab one. I've got one right on the other side of my table.
We'll see in the chat, Shelly said small useful gift. And Tina said members make recycled feed bag, shopping bags, bird feeders and suet feeders we give to presenters. That's a cool idea as well, yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
There's an example. I don't know if you can see it well. And each one is geared towards, that was for our ichthyology instructors. So we have fish photos. We've got other appropriate photos for the topic that they presented.
Nice. That's awesome. Tina said in the chat, they're coming from very far and are not one of the sponsoring agencies. They offer speaker honorariums to cover gas and expenses. Anybody else want to unmute and discuss what they do as
Just
well?
one thing I want to make clear that someone mentioned in the chat that they offer just a flat honorarium for Bell County for speakers. And so as employees of agencies, we cannot accept those. So
Yeah,
that goes with state
we're,
agencies.
we're fully aware of that, so we give them a little thank you gift, or we ask them if there's a charity they would like to see us make a donation to in the amount of $50.
I like that. The charity idea is a really cool one.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's
Those funds could also be
TPWD
going back to your
Foundation.
chapter for your projects too.
See, Mickey said that they have some walking stick medallions made and give instructors a custom walking stick. Nice. Lisa said, we budget for speaker gifts and try to match interests of the speaker. Everyone gets a thank you card and a small gift. I found that flash drives are popular. I do love a good flash drive, yeah. Susan said that in the past they given native plant seeds along with a thank you note. That's nice as well, yeah.
This is Nancy Casillas with Blackland Prairie. We have our trainees organized into what we call pods, into groups, and each group is responsible for providing the speaker gift. They're assigned a speaker ahead of time, and so they'll collect. Some people make things, some people, purchase, but they all get collected in like a basket and presented. So it's something different every time.
Idea too, I like that. Any other comments on the ways to thank speakers? Okay. I like those ideas. That's great. So moving on, the next question that we have, this one came from a chapter who was considering adding a second training class within a calendar year, so doing a spring training and a fall training. And so they asked, what should chapters consider when starting a second training class? What are lessons learned by chapters that offer more than one training class a year? So this one will be good for any of those chapters that do have 2 training classes, or maybe used to and decided to scale back again. What were some lessons learned or advice that you would give to someone, a chapter who's considering adding a second one? Go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, prepared and have a great deal of learnings from going to 2 classes a year. First of all, it is twice the amount of work for the membership director, for the treasurer, obviously for the training directors. But our chapter has grown by leaps and bounds since we've been doing this, and the demand for our training continues to be fantastic. So we're not running. Oh, can you hear me?
A little muffled. I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, I think it's my internet.
Oh, I hear you better now.
It's worth it. We get so many additional members into our chapter, and the interest is still there in the community. So 2 classes a year is something that we think has been a great benefit to us despite the additional work.
Awesome. Flo said that they offer a daytime class, move down, a daytime class in the spring and an evening program in the fall to accommodate those who work. I like that. Lisa, saw your hand up, yeah.
Yeah, so Capital Area does 2. This will be our 2nd year doing 2 since many, many years ago. And we do, our spring class is all in person on the weekends, and our fall class is a hybrid where we do all of the lectures on Zoom and then some Saturday mornings for the field sessions and, to accommodate different people's schedules. It worked really well the first year. We thought we would be able to accommodate more of our applications this way, but it just doubled the number of applications we got. So that didn't work. But that's great because we have, so many people interested in the program. It does take a lot more work and a lot more people contributing on the back end, but the hybrid version makes that a little easier as well. So.
In Alamo area, we did 2 classes a year for many years. And actually, since the pandemic, we have gone back to 1 class a year. But we have looked at ways that we can expand the number of people that we reach by doing classes by Zoom while still having a lot of in-person experiences for the class. This last class, we enrolled 72 people and 65 completed the program. And we've really kind of settled that we can manage around 60 people with some comfort. But we are not doing 2 right now because our current training team feels that they really need that time off when class is not in session for them to do their volunteer efforts and for them to have to travel and all those things. And because we do have a long-standing dedicated team, we respect their needs, so that we're just gonna continue on with the 1 class, but understanding that we are training 60 people or so a year with 1 class. So we really feel like we're doing what we can. And Karen Wilson could speak to this more around the applications, but we get a lot of applications, well over 100 for each session we do. So it's a lot. The demand is very high.
And Susan in the comments said, she was a bit muffled for some people, that they do 2 classes of basically twice the work for the training directors, mentors, membership, treasurer, etc. But it's worth it. Our chapter membership is growing with fantastic new numbers, and the demand for training classes remains quite high in the community. So both you and Lisa mentioned that it is that additional work for your chapter leadership. So for a chapter looking into starting a second one, how would you approach beginning that extra work for your chapter leadership and maybe getting them on board for that?
So we do 2 sets of training directors. So 2 of us do the spring and 2 others do the fall. So that way everybody gets a semester off and we're each really only working 6 months, and we'll help back each other up if everybody's out of town or something. But yeah, so we have 2 directors for each session that are completely different people. And a lot of our class coordinators are the same, but they just are doing 1 class each semester, so that's not a big deal. And other than that, it's not a whole lot of other work. So it seemed to work out pretty well, but we did have to recruit 2 extra training directors. So once you get somebody willing to take on that role, the rest of it, folks have been doing the classes so long, it runs pretty smoothly. So
I also think it would require a second set of additional training directors and maybe some additional team members, because it's just really, you really run the risk of burning your people out if you do. We have the same presenters for each of our classes as well. We did not have any problem getting our presenters to present twice a year. It was really just the wear and tear on the team. In San Antonio, we may go back to 2 classes at some point, but right now we don't have people who are willing to step up in those roles to do a second class. So we do make a few tweaks to our program with each class, and for now this is what's working best for us. But I'm happy to hear that other people are having good success with 2 classes a year, because we also did for many years.
I'm seeing some questions in the chat about finding those presenters. Do you use the same presenter for both classes in a calendar year, or have you had any difficulty getting presenters to come twice, or finding different presenters for each class. So could y'all kind of discuss the logistics behind the presenter side of things for 2 classes? And anyone else who wants to chime in as well?
So we use a lot of the same presenters both times because it's just one class each, so it's not a big deal getting them to agree to do that. Sometimes scheduling conflict comes up or they're not available for the field session, and we usually have, you know, we have a pretty good base of folks here in Austin, so we're lucky in that we can find backups for most subjects. But we also add different subjects sometimes and change it up a bit, and we like to have different speakers, so we have different voices on the subject. So sometimes we just mix it up anyway, depends who's coordinating the class. But for the most part, it is a lot of the same speakers in both sessions.
Aaron mentioned running retiree speakers. They have more open schedules. I see that in the chat.
Anna, there's one question about the number of class sizes. And so can you just explain again, that was detailed by the initial survey report, and can you kind of reorient everyone on this call of where to find that information?
So that is on our Naturalist News page. You'll find the recording from that last webinar that we had for this, and then also the slides for it. So you can scroll through the slides and find that information, and it has a breakdown of the number of the size for each person's class, each chapter's class, but then also which size they found to be the most effective, and then how those two relate to each other. If I remember correctly, the most effective class sizes were between, I want to say 25 and 35. I haven't looked at it in a while, so don't quote me on that. But you can go back to that Naturalist News page and find that information. Trying to keep up with the chat here. Give me a second. A lot's coming in, which is great, but I'm losing my spot. Bill mentioned limiting class size to 35, mainly due to room constraints and building constraints. Another one's mentioning about 35 given to classroom and space size. I believe that was the general consensus on the survey results as well, was a lot of it was due to space, as well as those interpersonal communication between the trainees and the leaders to get them into the chapter. All right, I'm seeing some questions in the chat that I'll pull for our next roundtable. Does anyone have any other advice they would give for the question that we have up on the slides right now of what chapters should consider when adding a second class? Book venues early is what Lisa says. All right.
Yeah, someone mentioned virtual classes. Yeah, it's not something we would approve.
You said book presenters early. So be early, be prepared is what I'm hearing. Boy Scout motto. All right.
We're planning our spring class right now. Most everything is already booked. The room, and I mean, we're down to the last couple of field trips, and our next class doesn't start till the end of February. You have to do it that far in advance.
All right. So the next question that we have from, again, that list at the end of the survey was how do you as training directors prep your speakers, or do you prep your speakers, but how do you convey the chapter's desired outcome, the expectations, et cetera, and things like that to the speakers that you have booked? And I know a lot of you probably have pretty seasoned speakers, so maybe think back to when someone first spoke with your chapter and how you conveyed that to them, or anyone that you've had recently that's new. Yes, Susan, I'll work on saving the chat and I can include that with the notes. Part of why I'm trying to read them out because I know it doesn't get saved in the recording. So, but there's a lot in there, so I haven't gotten to all of them. I know. Back to the
I just
question.
interviewed a new presenter a couple of weeks ago, and so I just had a live conversation with them. We started out the conversation. They were recommended to me, so we had a short chat by email, and then we had a phone discussion, and we talked about um, certainly what the curriculum requirements were, but what I wanted them to present, and they talked about what they're acquainted with presenting. And in this particular situation, this presenter is already presenting for the Master Gardeners on soils, so there were a lot of commonalities. So basically, it's just uh, developing a somewhat of a personal professional relationship with them, conveying what the curriculum needs are, and what you would like for them to talk about. If it's a Zoom presentation, are they comfortable presenting by Zoom, or any of the other logistics involved? And generally speaking, when we do have the new presenters, they're already familiar with us, and if not with our chapter, certainly with the organization. So generally, it's not a very difficult conversation at all.
Nice. I'm seeing Tina said email with the goals of the unit and personal suggestions based on their area of expertise and the class interest. And following up by a phone call because live conversation is best. Any other suggestions or input? He said tell the instructors to
This is
teach the
Nancy.
subject, not the book, since folks are expected to read the book, and so that adds new information. I like that.
This is Nancy Casillas, Blackline Prairie. We started last year creating what we called like a speaker doc. So it was a Google Doc that the format was the same for each speaker, but we listed the objectives for the class, the agenda, the projected agenda that we're going to have with timings and everything for the class, with some descriptions if we were going to have like breakout activities or anything like that. And then we gave them feedback based on the prior year's survey, so that they could make little tweaks if they felt like that those were warranted. And then we had a listing of what we were going to assign as far as pre-work or prep work for the trainees prior to class. And so they had all of these live links that they could go and look at, and they could add things or change things around. But it was, since it was this live Google Doc, they could see it, we could see it, the whole committee could see it. So it was a nice way for us to get everybody on board the same page.
Nice, I like that. Tina seconds that a standard operating procedure manual for the training team with guidelines has been beneficial. Anybody else? All right. This was more of a general question, but I feel like those catch-all questions tend to be pretty beneficial sometimes because that's where the little more out of pocket but really effective ideas kind of come out. So this one was, is there anything in your training process that you believe would be valuable for other chapters to incorporate? Be anything at all.
I'd like to say something about that, just as a suggestion. As a small chapter, I'm Tina with Pineywood Lakes in East Texas. This year we had a unique situation where we were losing our training class venue. I went to the local small community college campus. They were absolutely thrilled. Not only did they want us to come and have our training class there, but it opened up a world of marketing and outreach for us with the college to get younger students involved in Master Naturalists. And they also want us to do workshops there. And for those of you who suffered through my presentation on our Conservation Expo for last year, they have offered us all of the classrooms there to do workshops for the next Conservation Expo. So if you're looking for a venue, don't forget your local community college. It serves multiple purposes.
Nice. I like that. That's awesome that it increases your marketing reach as well. Student said at our first class, we go around, oh, we moved down. We go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves for 3 to 5 minutes. It's a real bonding experience to find our similarities as well as variety of life experiences. I like that. It helps build that camaraderie with the group. He said we incorporate a field element into many of our classes. After the lecture, we may take a walk or field trip to illustrate the learnings. We are blessed with having a number of local properties and ranches that allow us access. That's awesome. Lisa said we offer Slack for internal communication with the training team, which is very helpful for organizing and planning materials. We offer pre-planning Zoom meetings before the class for the team for Q&A and a template format to cover all the details for setup, opening and closing, etc. And making sure your training team is connected is a very important part of having a successful class. Karen mentioned trainees liking a balance of in-person and Zoom, and Lisa added to that they have that kind of combo with orientations in person and then options for those Zoom and in-person events. I like that. Shelley says that after each training topic, we open up our outreach trailer and showcase how trainees can use their knowledge in outreach or state park program support. And Lisa notes that having a backup plan is important in case of internet failure or weather impacts. That is very accurate. More mentions of using Slack, not just for trainees, but for a lot of things in the chapter and having private channels to talk amongst themselves. I like that. Any other comments that anyone want to unmute to give or to add in the chat? We'll give this a little bit longer.
Hey Hannah, this is Karen. I just wanted to mention, and I dropped off there for a second. If you already said this, I apologize. But we have had some requests to do a little bit more in person We do a lot of Zooming through our 12-week program. And so we are incorporating one more in-person meeting in the middle of our program this year. Our trainees want to meet each other after they've had a little bit of time in the class. So just adding that in.
Nice. Lisa adds, the type of class morning or evening will create a different flavor for the training candidates. Younger crowds for fall and retiree more in spring for us. I believe fall you said was your evening and spring was your morning, if I remember correctly, Lisa. Yes. All right. Yeah.
Do you see any kind of difference in post-class with their volunteer hours between those two flavors? Do you see more hours with one over the other?
I don't think we do, Lisa. Both have good involvement. Someone in the chat said full-time students are a problem, and yes, it's hard to keep them after the training.
Anything else for this general topic? I'll give it about another minute and then we'll move on. You said interview process. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? She doesn't always say. So taking time to interview the potential trainees is what it looks like. She says that for the director, it's very time intensive, but it's very important to have that consistent approach. Oops. All right. So for the next question that we have, kind of relates to what we were just talking about at the end there, so that's pretty serendipitous. But what approaches have other chapters found effective to increase demographics that are underrepresented in their chapter? So think Gen Z, maybe a different marginalized group, things of that nature. What has your chapter maybe done to try and reach those groups that aren't represented as much in your chapter? And what have you found effective, or maybe what have you found ineffective and you're trying something new? You said changing training days and times to reach a broader audience. Yes, that does seem to be a general consensus for a lot of this. Also added different presenters from colleges and universities. Yeah, I can see that working as well. Lauren mentioned having family events increases younger membership. That's a good idea. I like that. Karen mentioned Saturday tabling events. Many different ages showed up and applied after talking with them. And mentioned recruiting at UTD. So again, going to where maybe the younger demographics are already. It says that they post a training roster early for them and they can see their peers early on, which helps bonding. I like that. Creating videos to answer applicant questions. Hybrid training made it available for more people who could not do all in person. Again, kind of coordinating with work schedules. bring full scholarships to anyone who needs it, which helps some folks. Expanding places and events for doing outreach to reach various demographics. I mentioned bonding at several socials where they can meet their mentors and also do several trails and tacos events for fun. That does sound fun. And Flo mentioned what are some things you do to reach not just different age demographics, but also ethnic demographics, if anyone has any comments to add for that. Susan gave a big, in caps, yes to expanding the places and events for doing outreach. So that got a second opinion. Y'all don't be shy to unmute. I know you don't want to just sit here and watch me read all the comments that are coming in. You can talk.
I think we are trying really hard and succeeding at getting our younger group out in front doing outreach as well. When people see people their age at the booths, that also attracts more people that age.
Yeah. In a second on that, trying to spread their outreach to colleges, different areas, and different types of communities. We had that comment about offering scholarships for anyone who might need it. For any chapters that do offer scholarships, we touched on this a little bit in the initial survey, but how do you go about finding those individuals who maybe might need it but are a little hesitant to ask? How do you advertise your scholarship so that people are aware about it?
On
We
our
just-
I'm sorry, on our application, we have a question that says, are you interested in a scholarship? Yes or no?
Yes, same thing for us. It's on the application and we put it on the website as well, just to reemphasize that if anybody's interested. And we have an email address where they can email if they'd like to ask about it, because some people are shy to put it on the application, but we'll always give a scholarship to anybody who asks, even if they do it after the fact, so.
Nice.
We offer a few scholarships, and when that money goes out, if we still have other people, we've had success with breaking the payment up, and so some letting them do it in 4 payments, because we have our list by the end of October, first part of November, but class doesn't start until February, so we let them kind of break it out, and that's been well received and appreciated.
Something like that. Tina also added a comment that they offer discounts for educators. Any other approaches to getting those underrepresented demographics for your chapters, or maybe something that you have considered trying and want to see if maybe another chapter does something similar?
Yeah, on our application too, we just note that scholarships are available, and we also offer a discounted training rate for students.
See, Shelley also adding a discount for couples who might be sharing the textbook. Anything else? And adds that the young people themselves are great because they recruit their friends. That is very true. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. Feel free to add if you think of something a little later, feel free to add it in the chat because I will pull that at the end. But this one, it came in from a chapter that has a group of counties that they serve. So the question was, how do large chapters coordinate or work with trainees having to travel long distances for their volunteer hours or their advanced training hours? This says that they encourage carpooling. Barbara mentioned trying to get more outreach events in other parts of the county. And says this has been difficult because the North Texas chapter covers a large area and they give the trainees each other's zip codes to encourage carpooling and volunteering together. So mentioned encouraging carpooling for training classes, and then once they're just volunteering, encouraging them to volunteer on the projects closer to their home, or if they choose to do something further, to carpool with others. Susan mentioned they have two quote unquote lesser served counties in their area that they're trying to get more volunteer opportunities in. At least know that there tends to be natural groupings of volunteers who work in the same general locations. Commented that they've been trying to focus their outreach more on their furthest reaches for their service area so they can get more trainees and new members in those areas, and then they can do the service closer to home. Oh, interesting. So Shelley mentioned that they tried to have training venues all over the county last year, thinking it would be more inclusive, and just the opposite happened. All of that training class said that they would have liked to have just one meeting place for consistency in their end of course survey. So that is an interesting thing to note. So maybe for chapters that do have multiple counties that they serve, maybe having obviously that one training location, but would you recommend, or has anyone tried moving that training location into different counties? each class or each year? So you still have that one central location, but maybe it's closer to a different area? Or do you think that would not be effective? Give your thoughts. Lisa noted doing their training classes in all different locations, and people seem to really like getting to explore different places.
I can't speak to the other chapters, but for Blackland Prairie, we cover Collin County and Hunt County, and those are very different areas. Collin is super urban. I mean, really urban now, and Hunt is more rural landowners, and we're kind of not sure. We don't have a lot of opportunities right now in Hunt County, and it seems like their needs and interest is, a little different than the super urban Collin County. So that's what we're dealing with, is trying to figure out how do we serve both, and we haven't come up with an answer yet.
So maybe if some other chapters on today also have a service area where it does combine that urban and rural communities, maybe how have you tried to make sure you're providing the proper outreach and opportunities for both areas? Tina, for your comment, was that for moving different training classes to different areas, or um, what was the thing they tried in the past? I don't remember when that came in and what we had been talking about. So trying to move training locations around other areas in their service area. They found that people weren't willing to drive. Nikki mentioned they also meet in different locations and it seems to be appreciated. Sounds like it's the age-old answer of it depends. Any other comments for large chapters and working across those areas? Lisa says that they have a home base of sorts for large classroom formats for some keystone classes, then venues that have classrooms that they can benefit from. So like a combination of both again. Sheena says that with the Rio Brazos chapter, they incorporate their partner locations with some of the training materials for field days, and that helps them move across their 3 counties and helps the new members create volunteer connections. I like that. And there's some conversation about having locations that have the option for indoor or outdoor kind of classroom settings in case you get rained out. That is a good backup plan. Of course, Mickey says rain with a question mark. I guess he doesn't know what that is. All right. Well, you've heard of it. Hopefully it makes its way to you at some point. All right, so that was the end of the questions that we had for today. So I'd like to take these last, let's see, 4 minutes. We have some more questions from that initial survey, and I did see some in the chat as well. But if you have any questions that you would like to be brought up at the roundtable that we do at the annual meeting, go ahead and either unmute and mention them or add them into the chat. And I'll pool those questions and we'll have, I think it'll be another great discussion at the annual meeting when we do this again. And again, that will be recorded and put on the website for anyone who's not able to make it in person. And the time and date is TBA because we're still working on that schedule. But go ahead and either unmute for any questions that you want to see at the next meeting or add them in the chat. And if you have no other questions, you are free to get, looks like 3 minutes of your hour back. And thank you all for being here today and for having a really great discussion. And I hope to see you at the next one in person.